What's it like to watch things unfold right now in Ukraine and Russia, and like you said, this potential threat of nuclear conflict, something we didn't imagine was going to happen 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. What's it like for you to watch that, having spent time in both countries and knowing people there? And then what's that like?
It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, it's very hard to digest for me because I thought I knew Russia pretty well. I do know Russia actually, and like East Europe, but you're like get accustomed to things and they don't see some obvious things. And in hindsight, I saw that I can see now that it was supposed to happen. What is happening in Russia now, but when I lived there, I just didn't believe my eyes, you know. So I didn't think it could happen because I lived there all my life basically, and I had some kind of understanding of like the way Russians operate. But still, it was very unexpected. In hindsight, I now understand it. But it just tells you that you might be wrong, even if you see everything, you know, you just might not see it like properly because you are so used to it and you have seen it for all your life and you have just like wrong ideas, you know, you are comfortable with your own ideas and what you have in your head is totally different from what is actually happening. So you should always question your beliefs, you know. So this is for me a huge like learning experience. So it changed my perspective on the world completely, I would say.
Right. So you can no longer even trust yourself because you think you know what things, and then sometimes things happen just completely out of what you would believe possible. And you're a scientist and you're an engineer, and you know where usually you can predict these things, and then when it doesn't happen, it makes you kind of question your own assumptions.
Yeah, it's a totally unexpected, and you start to think that it might happen again. So you have not in this particular situation you were wrong, but you might be wrong in other situations when you have some like conception about what is happening, but it might be totally like detached from reality, and you have to question your beliefs and question your like ideas, question your worldview, because you're just, you know, you're used, it's your habit, you have like habitual worldview, and it might be totally detached from what happens in reality.
Hey, do you want to profit from crypto? Then join my DeFi Academy. The Crypto DeFi Academy will help you create generational wealth. But don't take my word for it. Listen to my students.
When I first got into crypto, I remember thinking to myself, I need to learn more. Brian Rose, learning crypto, learning DeFi, gotta do it.
I am so grateful that I jumped in and did this. I had to break through some limiting beliefs that I can do this, that I can afford this, that I can be in this.
It challenges the things that are deeply rooted within us.
Joining DeFi Academy has been one of the best decisions I have made on my blockchain journey.
This course was a life changer, a game changer, a huge eye-opener, coming from knowing practically nothing at the speed of the learning over 4 weeks was just fantastic.
The information you provided in this class was invaluable.
I feel far more confident in my next steps.
You took complex concepts and made them easier to understand.
What's different than so many other ones is it just doesn't tell you what to do. It actually makes you do it.
This is for people who are serious about becoming traders. This is the way it should be done.
I realized from this learning experience again that it is not about what you learn, but about who you learn it from.
The energy was insane. I've never experienced such incredible energy on a live call. Brian Rose, you are a legend, my friend.
It's the only thing in the market where you can get all information and learn everything what you need to know.
Everything is so clear and so well done, and I am just forever grateful for this program.
It made me feel so much more confident about crypto than I did before.
I did not anticipate how passionate I was going to become about it.
It's also been like a big learning experience for me, not just in the crypto space, but just an overall balance of life.
What I've learned is, how to take ownership, of my life in a way that I really hadn't before.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that, really.
I would recommend it to anybody, top notch.
Excellence does not come cheap. So if you want excellence, you got to pay for it, but it's so worth it.
Pull the trigger. That's what this course is about.
You're not going to regret it, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Brian and team.
So what are you waiting for? Crypto is happening now. Click the link below, submit your application, and let me mentor you on how to create generational wealth and build the decentralized financial infrastructure of the future. Yeah. So my background is mechanical engineering. So I think engineers sometimes, we think we're so logical, right? We think that we think logically, that we should also be able to predict everything. But we're just humans. And so just like every other human, we have our own realities and biases and blind spots. And like you said, we oftentimes don't see things.
We tend to make assumptions, so we make assumptions and we base our logic on that assumptions. But our assumptions might be wrong, so we don't have to assume anything. We have to really think about what happens next, so if you assume nothing's going to happen, there's not going to be any war, and you basically, this is your assumption. It's wrong, because you won't be able to predict the future. So we have to really think about what's going to happen next without making some assumptions that just make us blind to different scenarios, so don't make assumptions is what I have understood recently.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that we're actually talking about potential, nuclear war. And I mean, I grew up as a kid, you and I were in the two countries where we both were worried that we were going to nuke each other. And when I was a kid, that was a real thing. I was scared when I was 10 years old that, Russia was going to send a nuclear missile over. And it was probably less likely then than it is now. I mean, it's just strange that we're now dealing with this possibility. It also shows the danger of some of these massively asymmetric weapons that, we have to consider as well. So it's very sobering.
It's a huge problem and nobody knows how to solve it. So it's going to take centuries maybe. If we don't destroy each other, it's going to take centuries to resolve these issues.
There's a great movie called The Fog of War with Robert McNamara, who was a Secretary of Defense under Kennedy. And, the Bay of Pigs, they were very close to potentially having a nuclear war.
Yeah, sure.
Later, 30 years later, 40 years later, he got and met Castro or something, somewhere at a lunch somewhere. And he went up to him and said, would you have actually pressed the button and sent those nuclear missiles into America knowing you would have killed 20 or 30 million people? And he looked at him, he said, yes. He said, you would have? He said, yeah, I would have. Because it got to that much, human emotion and anger. And that's when McNamara said, wow, we have much bigger danger on our hands than we ever realized, is that it's such a human emotional decision, which is such an asymmetric.
It's a famous fact that Castro wanted the war and the Russians didn't. So, you might actually understand that you might have some personality that could just push the button, and for them it's going to be okay, no problem. So you might hold somebody down the line, down the chain of command, with just sabotage those orders. But there is a possibility that they won't, so it's quite tricky, so there is no guarantee that it won't happen. And it worries me quite a bit.